Okay, so getting back to the history of chemistry, I was just thinking this while doing my dishes, because this is also something I don't know, in a very long list of things I don't know. Um, what does the process look like when in commercial use we have a new chemical compound? What does the process for safety look like? So, is there one? Obviously, with the FDA, that's food and drugs, but like with everyday products, what process does China, who makes most of our products, when they're trying a new spray, a sealant, a new glue, a new paint, a new anything, and not just to pick on China, really anybody, how do we currently vet any new chemical compound? And the answer, I'm pretty sure, is we don't. That's what the 3M court case was about, because it was literally a cancer case where the judicial system in Minnesota was able to say beyond a reasonable doubt that 3M was guilty of giving this woman and many other people a specific kind of cancer from their PFAS, so the phthalates, a type of petroleum product that makes plastic. And gosh, wouldn't it be good if we could debate chemical compounds in our environment? And I think I'm just gonna end this video there. I kind of wanted to talk more just about my life. It's going good. I'm feeling better. I'll make it 10 minutes, I guess. But yeah, we should definitely start to have a process where we are able to communicate to the average person the effect of any chemical compound used every day. Also, I want to know how many electromagnetic waves I have running through my body currently, because of how we use like wireless and electromagnetic waves. Anyway, just like food for thought. I guess the Epstein files were just voted on, and Chuck Schumer looked super smitten. And I'm never really sure, what people in politics mean. Obviously, with a pandemic of child sex abuse, having a government that sexually trafficked children and tried to cover it up, both major political parties, I would say the biggest members of both major political parties, just praying for the future. And I don't think anything too interesting is going to come out in the files, though. I did get excited, though, because I just watched a bit of the House today, and then I logged in to YouTube, and I watched a bit of the Senate live, and it was Chuck being like, yeah. and then so I think that's all is that it had to pass the House and the Senate. My grievance is that there's so many other organizations and groups of people, like gangs, that sex traffic children. And so I wish that while this was happening, somebody would say, oh yeah, it's actually more than just this horrific elite ring of pedophiles. There's also just your regular Joe Schmo union worker pedophile, and it's the same crime. And you can argue which one's worse. Or which position is worse, to be a part of a elite pedophile ring or a poor pedophile ring. So you know what I mean? That kind of bothered me, because I still think we should have a response to child sex abuse like we had a response to drugs, where we instituted DARE in public schools. We need the same thing so kids can self-report. Which they end up doing anyway, but it works out worse because there's no real avenue for when they're ready. There's no real avenue. There's going to the police, who you're probably not going to trust if you're a kid, or there's a very high chance that a lot of groups of kids wouldn't go to the police because they don't want to get in trouble. And that was me. That wasn't me. It sort of was. My brainwashing was so well done, where I was, I thought that I was being consensual at an age where I now know, like, no, a 13-year-old can't consent to a relationship with a married man and a gang member. And so I just wish we would have self-reporting forms for kids and education like we do with DARE. And so that would be nice if somebody would bring that up. I did bring it up to Pete Stauber, my congressman. I sent him a copy of a form I made that was it was less than 10 questions, and it was just something for kids to do online, because you should be able to report it online. Wouldn't it be easier to file a police report when you can type out everything yourself? Officers are extremely unskilled in handling child sex abuse, especially because a lot of them are like 20 years old and they don't have any real experience with life. And so, and it really shows. Even for the older ones, nobody really handles the problem who should be handling the problem very well. And so I guess that was that rant. Oh yeah, so it came up, and this was nice, and I wanted to remember his name. I won't now because I watched way too many people today. But it was a congressman questioning Kash Patel, because Kash was under oath today, the FBI director, and he's an interesting person to watch get a chip on his shoulder when he becomes FBI director. But it was interesting, and I liked that he was very different in how he spoke about how he's doing his job. So they kept asking him, like, did you read the 70,000 pages? And he's like, no, I didn't review 70,000 pages. I run an agency of people, and I trust my agents to tell me. So that was interesting to learn how he's not, being a dictator of the FBI, which he could be. And I do wish that somebody would do it that way, because the FBI has been treasonous. Franklin scandal, they've sex trafficked kids. So it's like, and that's like one of many examples. The Franklin scandal, I forget about the one Veterans for Child Rescue had the Founders. The Founders was out of Florida, and it's a similar experience to mine and a lot that I've witnessed, where we were being sex trafficked as little kids. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna make me angry. I thought I was more relaxed to talk about it, but he was, so back to what Kash was saying. So the congressman was like, wouldn't it just, this is what I've been saying all along, wouldn't it be most efficient to get the witness statements? You don't need to go digging through a bunch of fucking old material, which you still should, but to do that without calling witnesses, like, where are my survivors at? Why aren't they making public statements? There's so much more than just the Epstein. You have every gang in America sex traffics kids. So Bloods, Crips, Native gangs, other white gangs, apart from Hell's Angels, Warlock, that's on my family side. All gangs are guilty of this. So, and it's usually, for a lot of, not usually, but for a lot of kids, these are family members. For a kid who gets sexually abused, I think the statistic is it's 60 to like 80% likely the kid knows that person, and it's like 40 to 60% it's a family member. And so the congressman asked him, like, how are we encouraging witnesses to come forward? And Kash did say, we do want witnesses to come forward. We're investigating everything. I don't know if I believe him. if you saw my other videos, have given a statement to the FBI and have been interviewed. I've like come forward with a statement, but I, and then I was interviewed for a specific kidnapping and rape case. It was the Hells Angels president and 4 others in northern Minnesota in 2023, and that's just proxy to my experience, because it's the same gang and they need to be treated like domestic terrorists. Not the victims though, which tend to, it happened to me where I was treated very poorly, and that's all I'll say. So that was nice to see a congressman be like, but what about the witnesses? Which is the obvious thing, it's been this whole time. Yeah, where's the path for witnesses to come forward? Like, where's the consistent path for human trafficking victims from your city, your local area, to the Fed? Because all gangs, usually, like established gangs, become, you know, transcontinental, and then they become international. So nobody really should be calling the police right away as a human trafficking victim if you're coming from a gang. You should have a direct line to somebody, and it really is such a fucking mess, and I'm angry about it, and I guess I'll leave that there because I thought this would be cathartic. I didn't think I would get angry, but I did. Because it's one of those things where like I'm always just getting teased with it. Well, like me and all of the other survivors, where we're like, what's gonna happen? But I do know that as a survivor myself, I do need to have more of an active life in that recovery program. And I do think a whistleblower form, a self-reporting form, in the light of how we do DARE, is the #1 way to help prevent it. The reality is, though, is that our kids are so mentally ill now that anything that's going to give them an avenue for attention is going to be something that could produce a falsehood. So the struggle will be, how do we support real victims coming forward? How do we address children who lie? And yeah, that's like make orphanages great again. Like they need to go then, if they're saying that they're being molested at home or it's somebody who they know. I'm particularly speaking of kids from gangs. So if they're saying that's happening and it's not, we still need an orphanage like system for all these kids. The sex abuse is rampant. It's so obvious. We had a political party for a decade, the Democrat Party, promoting sex work is work. Sex work is slavery, and you serve poor people, so you certainly know that it's a woman or boy or whatever, their only means out of poverty, and you're doing that on purpose. So that's a more sinister aspect that hasn't really come forward yet, and I would like more people to talk about it, but I guess I'm excited to just stabilize myself and start at Fond du Lac in the spring. Love Fond du Lac. And I will say this because I'll criticize Native American policy a lot. And I do love that we're in this position where the chemistry really is a threat. So I guess this is going to be like a 20-minute video now. And this is why the Native Americans really are such a cornerstone to purity as far as environmental purity, for the most part, because it really is like, what an onslaught of garbage. And it's so, I love the economy, I love the world I live in, I love that I have medicine if I get sick, if I want a cool pair of boots, I'm gonna go find some. But also, if I do have a kid or more than one kid, and I'll probably adopt later in life anyway, but and I'm leaving them a world, I would like it to have a minimal amount of poison, not an amount of poison that we all agree to, so we can like meet the quarterly goals. Like that at some point does need to come up in like a broader conversation. Is, you know, we've been all been poisoned all together. It happened to all of us. Not like child molestation, which only happened to some people, well, probably about half, but we've all been poisoned. So we're all going to share in that reality moving forward, and I would like it to improve. And so I'm excited to finish up in Native Studies. Still going to do undergrad history of chemistry. I just don't know where. And I'm going to end my video.